Yo, what is going on, you WBE type people? It's Sawk here with another coach interview, and this time I am joined by InVividColor.
Oh, hey, YouTube, what's really good? My name's InVividColor, coach of the South Texas Sableyes.
Awesome, which leads us actually right into our question. So, your team name for the WBE is?
The South Texas Sableyes. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No, it's all good. That's exactly what we needed. So, when did you start playing Pokemon?
My cousin got this game when I was like 8 years old, and he wouldn't let me play it. And then we were about to go on a really long car trip to Orlando, so my mom just went out and bought me a Game Boy Color and a copy of Pokemon Blue. So it was when I was 8 or 9. I don't know if it was 8, but it was 8 or 9.
Awesome. And then when did you start playing competitively?
I'm going to use competitively kind of lightly here. I started getting into the whole like building your own sets and then EVing and IVing Pokemon back on, I think it was called like Shoddy Battle was the old simulator. And I think it was around Gen 3 because I remember the first competitive Pokemon I used was like Curslax.
Oh, damn. That's a good set.
Yeah.
So, what makes you a fan of Pokemon?
Honestly, there's just really something about sort of like the catch and raise, I guess like catch and raise genre of games. Like there's something about like being able to go out and like catch your party members and them being sort of like monsters instead of, I guess, like humans, like it would be in Final Fantasy or something like that. That really, I just enjoy. Like as a kid, I was a fan of Pokemon, Digimon, Monster Rancher, just all of those like sort of like monster based RPG games. So I don't know, something about like raising a creature, I think, is what drew me in initially.
So you love Nintendogs.
Oh, I had a copy of it.
That's awesome.
Oh no.
Got him.
Yeah, I'm just been exposed.
So, what do you do outside of YouTube and Pokemon?
So I'm actually a high school teacher, which I think is something that's kind of neat about me. I don't know if anyone else in the Pokemon community is a teacher, and if they are, I'm sorry for stealing your thunder. But that's you know, sort of like my full-time gig. And then other than that, I spend time with my lovely fiance, and that's sort of my life. Since YouTube's my big hobby, that's what I do. And then everything else is just work and friends and relationship.
That sounds like fun. So how do you balance your work and Pokemon, and have you prepped for a league game while having a video on in class? I gotta ask.
So I don't is like the short answer. I'm really bad at time management. If you've ever, I don't know, like anyone that's ever like followed me through a season, like sometimes like towards the end of seasons for draft leagues, like if I fall off uploading, I just get like, if I'm 2 weeks behind or something, I'm like, okay, well, I'm stressed out. I'm not going to do this. I've been getting a lot better at it. But as far as like managing, having like the full time and being a content creator, that's the biggest reason that I upload like 1 to 2 videos a week, is because I'm really bad at time management, and it's something I'm working on to try and get better, but I just don't manage my time. And yeah, I've definitely, I mean, like not when my classes are all project based, I guess, just like a peek behind the curtain. I teach like AV production, graphic design, and video game design. So I typically like teach a skill, and then I have a project associated with the skill, and the kids work on this project. So I have a lot of time when kids are supposed to be working without me that I can prep for Pokemon battles.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was a heat set that you brought and had it work well?
Okay, so I was, because you sent me a couple of these questions, and I was looking at this one, and I think that I might be the most bland draft battler ever. I don't know that I've ever had a really, really heat set, but a set that was like kind of unique that's worked out recently came courtesy of Randy HLD, and it was just like a burn up Arcanine because it like hard countered a Zygarde.
Ooh.
Yeah. It actually it did a ton of work, because once the Arcanine lost its fire typing, you know, it just has like actual 0 weaknesses. And when it enters the battlefields, it can lower the Zygarde's attack. So it worked as like kind of a hard counter to Zygarde. It was good.
Dang.
Yeah. It ended up winning me the match.
That's really, really good.
Yeah.
I would say it's heat since it's not a fire type anymore, but it worked.
Oh, you got me on the puns there, though.
Now, Who would you say has influenced you the most, YouTube or outside?
Okay, so I'm going to split this up into two categories. I'm going to split this up into YouTube and outside. So, in terms of like outside, the people that have sort of influenced me the most are on it, and this is like super cheesy, corny. Just my fiance Emily and my mom. They're both I think kind of like unreasonably supportive of the fact, like just everything I do, but especially my YouTube channel. Like I'm not a massive content creator, but they just know I enjoy it. And my mom watches all my videos, and Emily always, gives me time to create or to go and like prep for a Pokemon League battle. And in terms of like who inspires me content wise, it's hard to narrow down the most. The reason I started YouTubing was 100% Shady Penguin. I feel like that's almost like the default PokeTuber answer. Yeah, and then now I'm really inspired by people like David Dobrik and Casey Neistat, Philip DeFranco, sort of the people that are like really, really, really smart in the space and have made massive audiences doing just something completely their own.
Okay, that's a really interesting answer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still like, I have a lot of respect for a lot of the people that got me into YouTubing, like Shady Penguin, aDrive, Game Boy Luke are some of the ones that like I watched. Shady Penguin is like obviously the biggest influence, but now when I think about like what would I be if I could be, it would be one of those people that's sort of like defining your own genre on YouTube. I think that that's something that's really impressive and interesting.
That is really cool. If you could unban one or more Pokemon in this WBE season, what would it be and why?
I'm so glad you said or more. I read this question and I thought it just said unban one. Oh my God. I was like in the WBE Discord. I was adamant. I was like, let's just unban everything except for like Mega Rayquaza, right? Like, and then I pulled back and I was like, okay, maybe not. But my whole philosophy, and this comes from playing Magic the Gathering too, my whole philosophy around bans and what I guess like what you need to maintain an environment is like, for competitive environments like this, they're normally self-correcting. Like, I don't think that there is a need for like Tapu Lele to be banned. I don't think both the Greninjas need to be banned. I understand one, just so there's not like multiple Greninjas running around like Protean and Battle Bond. But like, just unban stuff, Aegislash, like I think that things like that are fine in League format because you have a chance to prep for it. The reason things like that are so oppressive on ladder is because you don't know what your opponent's team is going to be until you face your opponent. Like, you have time to sort of like try to figure out a game plan. I mean, don't get me wrong, some Pokemon just like don't really have flaws. And that's why they need to be banned. But there are just things like Landorus Incarnate. Like, I'm just like, let's just unban all these things. Like, let's unban all these things. Maybe not all the Ubers, but like, let's just unban everything else and go from there. If I had to pick one, it would just be like Mega Mawile. Just because I think that, I mean, I would probably unban all the Megas, honestly, just because we drafted with 28 coaches and the Mega Pool is really shallow. So I would be, 100% in favor of doing that, even if it meant creating like a new tier. But anyways, that's my pedestal of just like unban everything, let the format correct itself.
So you must really enjoy what the GBA's been doing this season.
Yeah. Okay. So I do enjoy it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. Like, the battles have been super hype. I tried helping, again, Randy HLD. I tried helping him prep for a match. And then in the middle of it, I was like, nah, I give up. Like, this is too much. Like, there's too many, like, it was against a team that had, I think it was against a team that had access to, I don't remember the Uber, but it was like, because they get like one Uber and then another like kind of like soft Uber, basically. And I don't remember the Uber. I don't remember the team, but I was trying to help him prep and it just wasn't happening. I was like, my brain is not wired for this. I have to dip. So like, I love it, but at the same time, I understand the complications that come with it.
Understandable. What is your favorite Pokemon, competitive or not?
Again, you keep giving me these I'm going to break it into two categories. My favorite Pokemon 100% is just Porygon. I really, really love it. I don't know why. I think it's because it reminds me of a Digimon, and I was a big fan of Digimon. I also like the color scheme a lot. And then as far as like competitively goes, I had to think about this kind of a lot, but I'm a really big fan of Tapu Bulu. I like what it does. I know it's not like, the best competitively or in league format, having a lot of weaknesses. Like grass types aren't typically, seen as like fantastic Pokemon. But it really came down to like Tapu Bulu or Superior. Because like grass and poison are my favorite typings. And I love that Tapu Bulu like sets terrain that like heals itself. I love like sub seed sets. And also it just like it hits like a truck. So
absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You seem to have risen up recently a lot of the competitive ranks. What do you attribute to your success?
Just having really, really good friends that help me help me prep for battles. I remember I was having this conversation a while back. I think even you were there at PAX. Like people were asking me like how I prep, and I just have like I'm in sort of like this private chat with Randy HLD and Roots 8100. Both people that I think are really good at this format and don't have like enough, I guess like enough viewership for how good they are. Even though Randy is like, he's in GBA now, so he's getting there. But also Ultra Player he's sort of like commented on one of my videos a long time ago and was like, hey, if you ever need help, reach out. And at the time I was like, who knows if this kid's actually good or if this guy's a scrub. And then I reached out and it turns out he's just like a god at this format. Like he's really good at building and prepping. And then he's sort of introduced me to his friend Shimetime. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that guy's name right. We've never hopped in call before. But him and then I want to shout out the other guy, Dr. Slacking.
My gosh, Slacking's so good.
Yeah. They've all like, because I have like a very set way in which I like draft and build teams. And a lot of these people have given me like different perspectives of what can be good or what, like what's viable. And I think it's helped me a lot. So yeah, I think just like one, having like surrounding myself with those people and getting their input and advice. And two, also just like, I think kind of like going up a stepping stool of like progressively harder leagues. Like the first league I was in was like a dumpster fire that never finished. And then the second league was the PGBL, which the first season was not very competitive. I think I can say that safely since I won. And then the second season, immediately, we just had a bunch of heavy hitters in it. So... and then like being in the NPA and then even like the WBE, like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, like kind of fun season, things like that. Like I've just had to start facing like progressively harder opponents.
And this seems to be one of the most stacked leagues by far.
Yeah,
just 100%. In terms of skill.
Yeah, 100%. I was reading that like article write up for the WBE, and it was like talking about like, we've got Glick and Cybertron, and then we also have like sort of like the content creator heavy hitters like Dan. Obviously, like he's been playing phenomenally lately. I think Mr. Talent is incredibly underrated. Like he's really, really good in this format. He's just like kind of good at competitive in general. Just a lot of those dudes, and it's gonna be a tough season, but it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be really, really fun to see what comes around. All right, here's a fun question for you. What's your favorite slang term your students use?
I wouldn't say this is like, can it be PG-13?
Yeah, PG-13 is fine.
Okay, so my favorite term that my students use is dead ass. Like it just means like, like I'm serious or you can't lie. Like
straight up.
Yeah, like straight up. Yeah, exactly. It's like it's the new age straight up. Like if I mean, I used to be, I've kind of like, I don't know how professional this is, but I've kind of like, I can't write up every kid for swearing all the time because I'd just be constantly sending kids to the office. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've kind of like loosened up in terms of like, don't say PG-13 basically. PG-13, not like explicitly vulgar. And whenever like I ask a student a question and they say, yeah, dead ass, I'm like, oh my God, I think it's so funny. I've started saying it probably more than I should.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Now here's one of my favorite questions I ask every coach.
Okay.
Blue or pink Gastrodon?
It's definitely, this is so basic. It's blue. I think the blue color, like the blue-green color scheme is so good.
Yes.
So good. I think you can't catch blue early on in Diamond and Pearl, right? Like you can only catch pink early. Yeah, which sucks. Is sad. Yeah, it's the worst because I love Gastrodon as a Pokemon, but it's like
so good.
Yeah, but pink Gastrodon, it doesn't look good. It's almost like the same like blue or pink Jellicent, like the blue one every time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I had a the person who drafted Jellicent, I DM'd them saying, "Hey, do you want blue or pink?" Is like, is that really a question? Of course,
yes, 100%. It should always be blue. Okay, good. We're on the same page.
Good. I'm gonna have to yell at Brendan again because that's all 4 coaches that I've interviewed so far. Blue Gastrodon.
Good.
Other than your YouTube and Twitter, is there anything you want to promote?
I'm trying to start streaming on Twitch. I mean, I always say that. I'm the most inconsistent human, but I want to start streaming on Twitch, and I don't necessarily like even YouTube. I don't just want to like be niched into Pokemon explicitly. Like I posted an update video about like this summer I want to start working on like motion graphics and doing other games, but then also like commentary and just dip my toes in all these different pools, and you know, whatever works, I'll just jump in and go from there. But yeah, besides YouTube and Twitter, Twitch would be a good place to follow me.
Cool. And our last question today is, do you have a favorite story of a student that you'd be able to share?
Yeah. Okay. So I have 2. One of them is really short. So like one is like kind of like this is sentimental. And one of them is like, this is ridiculous. So I'll start with the ridiculous one. So it was my first year as a teacher. I was really meek, and I had this kid that he was like really loud and rambunctious. And I don't know, one day the bell rang for class, and just, you know, class ended. And then out of nowhere, he stood up after the bell finished and started singing as loud as he could, "Me gusta Diego, my takis de fuego." And it's super nonsensical, because that means like, I like Diego, my takis are hot. But it was so funny. It was so funny. I laughed about it for the rest of the day. And then in terms of like a sentimental one, this happened this year. So at the end of the year, students like sometimes will give teachers gifts and stuff. And this one student who I had this year, she's kind of like a spitfire kid. Like, she again is like really rambunctious, and I feel like just the way I am with my kids, I'm a lot more laid back. Like, she's the type of student where if I ask her to do something, she might sarcastically say no or no you, or like kind of smart off, but like in a joking way, you know, like I don't consider it disrespectful. We just kind of like, that's how we talk to each other. And at the end of the year, the last day of school, or the day before the last day, she asked what my favorite candy was and what my favorite color was. So I expected her to like, you know, bring me a Reese's, like a pack of Reese's, and like, I don't know, maybe a gift card, like a thank you card in that color. And then instead she brought me like a bag, like a whole, like a decent sized gift bag that was like 50% full. And then she had brought a bunch of blue, like Hallmark note cards. And she walked around to a bunch of students she knew I had and had them all write notes for me, like saying, you know, like how they enjoyed my class or things like that. And it was just really, I don't know, kind of heartwarming, because that's really thoughtful and not something you often get. And like I said, she's like kind of like a, you know, like she's a firecracker of a kid. And I don't know. And there's also this whole like, I might not be teaching next year because my fiance is graduating, so we might move across the country. And if we do, I'm not going to license to teach in another state. I'll figure something else out. So it just kind of got to me, you know. And that's probably, I think that's like my favorite story I would have to tell people, is just like, I don't know, you know, like I guess you never really understand how much of an impact you make in the kids' lives until sort of like they let you know.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah. It was a good feeling. It was a hard day because it was like the last day of school, and I was like, I might not come back. And then I felt bad. And then all these kids started saying, you know, you're my favorite teacher. You're the best teacher. Or like, we don't like, even if you didn't always, you know, like use your teacher voice, you're a better mentor to us than all these other people, or like people don't get us like you do. And it was like really validating, I guess, is the word I would use.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that heartwarming note, that is where we're going to leave off today. Is there anything you else like to add, Vivid?
Yeah, so I just want to say like big shout outs to sort of like the analysts and the graphics team. Y'all have been killing it and doing a lot of the like behind the scene work. And, I think it's really impressive. I'm really surprised we have this like really talented cast of dudes that are helping out with everything. Shout out to Dan shout out to Dan, Elliot, and Jodor for sort of like putting everything together. And go follow all the people that I mentioned earlier as influences on me, or the people I listed. I'm not going to relist them all, but all the people that I said helped me build, and all the analysts and all the coaches, just everybody. It's really, I think, kind of fantastic to be here, since I'm one of the like smaller dudes. So it feels great, and I'm just like really honored to be amongst like such an incredible cast of not just like coaches but analysts and friends.
Well, that is awesome. A small channel, but a big threat in the WBE. InVividColor is and the South Texas Sableyes. With that, we are going to get on out of here today, guys. I hope you guys all have a wonderful afternoon, and peace out, Scouts.
Have a good one.